Our guest is Chuck DeVore with the Texas Public Policy Foundation. Chuck, the Green New Deal, were it to be enacted, how much would it cost American taxpayers?
Well, here's the good part, and props to your bumper music guy for playing AC/DC's Dirty Deeds, and they're done dirt cheap, because this is going to be anything but dirt cheap. You're looking at potentially, at a high range, as much as $90 trillion over a decade, $51 trillion at the low end, $600,000 per household. And why is it so expensive? Well, they're doing things like ditching the entire carbon-based fuel network. So no more natural gas, no more oil, all electric cars, all electric trains. And to do this without nuclear power, because they don't like nuclear power either, is you have to massively overbuild wind and solar. And you have to massively overbuild it because, of course, it's not always windy, it's not always sunny, and you have a problem with seasons, especially up in northern parts of the country where, frankly, the sun doesn't shine as much during the winter. You know, it's down in the southern hemisphere. You've got a lot of storms. And so what you have to do is you have to overbuild this wind and solar infrastructure and then have a massive storage capacity to save that electricity, not just for minutes or days or hours like they're doing in California, minutes and hours in California. Mm-hmm. You have to get enough storage that you can save electricity for weeks and even months, because you have to save it over the winter season. And when you do that, you have to build hundreds of millions of tons of battery farms. These, think of Tesla's gigafactories running full out for 100 years to produce enough batteries so we can store the electricity from all these solar panels made by slave labor in the western part of China. Right? That's how this has to be done if we're going to completely get ourselves off of fossil fuel without nuclear power. One last thing for your listeners to understand. This is, of course, all for show, because India and China have no intent of ever following along. And here between these two nations, you have about 2.5 billion people. And to provide a scale, China currently operates a coal fleet, a fleet of coal-fired power plants about 4 times what we have here in America. And even though they're talking a lot of green game right now because they want to suck up to Joe Biden and Vice President Harris, they're planning on adding another entire fleet equivalent of what America has in coal-fired power plants just in the next couple of years. So while we're busy decommissioning our coal-fired power plants and trying to go to wind and solar, they're building the equivalent of an entire U.S. fleet of new coal-fired power plants in China today.
Chuck, 2 quick things. Give me a quick answer on the first one, because I want your thoughts on the California recall. When did nuclear become a 4-letter word? Doesn't France get like 70% of its power from nuclear?
Yeah, it used to be as high as 80 or 90%, and it has been dropping a little bit in recent years. But yes, absolutely. Nuclear power became a problem, I think, when the left realized, number one, it was connected with the building of nuclear weapons, so they were opposed to nuclear proliferation. They were very much opposed to America having nuclear weapons, even though the Soviet Union was doing a huge buildup. And number two, I think that a lot of it had to do with control, that if you had abundant, low-cost, reliable electricity, then, how can you tell people how they should live their lives and where they should live and what kind of work they should have? Out in Arizona, on the Colorado River, there was plans, as they were looking at the growth of Arizona, to put in 5 hydro dams along the Colorado River going right up to the Grand Canyon National Park. And the Sierra Club at the time said, don't do the dams. Let's do a nuclear power plant. This was before they turned against nuclear power.
Chuck, I'm going to have to put you on hold. We're going to pick it up on the other side. I want to get your thoughts. It looks like enough signatures have been gathered to recall Gavin Newsom.